So this is week 4 of our 7-week Unity Awakening 2019 series of small talks and classes predicated on the work of let me just start over again. I'm just flustered by Lauren Daigle's song. It's still catching up to me. 7-week series based on the book 12 Powers and 7 Chakras, or could it be Christian Kundalini, which was a look that we're taking through the eyes of the analytical psychology of Carl Jung to look at the chakra system, 3,500 years old, comes from India, and Unity's teaching of the 12 powers of mankind as taught by Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore, dating all the way back to 1920. So we're combining these things together to see what's practical and applicable in our lives so that we might have life and have it abundantly, to live life fully. Reminding us that the roots of New Thought, Unity, Centers for Spiritual Living, have the same roots as the science of psychology. So ultimately, we understand that our thoughts lead to our actions, lead to our words, and how we create the world that we're living in today. So if we want to have a vibrant life, a healthy life, a joy-filled life, a peaceful life, we've got to understand our internal makeup so that we know how it is that we are co-creating this experience we call life. You with me so far? All right. So we began a few weeks ago by examining the root chakra. That's symbolized by the color red. And the root chakra informs our thoughts around our origin stories, our culture of origin, family of origin, where we came from, where we start out. The next chakra, the sacral chakra, is symbolized by the color orange, and informs our thoughts around our boundaries as we begin to separate from our origin stories and how it is that we create life. And the root sacral chakra, notably around that same place where we create life. Last week, we talked about the solar plexus chakra, the third chakra, symbolized by the color yellow, this vibrant energy. How do we engage in the world, and how do we make things happen? And if you were with us, you recalled we showed the video of the little engine that could. I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. But really, it covered all the main points of that particular teaching. And along with that, we talked about, beginning with the root chakra, the teaching of the power of elimination. How do we release and let go of the things from our origin that we no longer need? When we got to the sacral chakra, we talked about Unity's faculty of life. How do we create life and have it abundantly? Last week, we tied the solar plexus chakra to the faculties of wisdom and strength and order. How do we engage life wisely? How do we stick to it to do the things that are to be done by us? How do we do so in an orderly fashion and trust that we are making wise decisions? So now we come up to the fourth chakra, Anahata, which is symbolized by the color green. And in the symbol of the root chakra, of the heart chakra, you see a Star of David. It's really not a tie-in to Judaism, in case you were wondering, because you may have been thinking, is he going to tie in one more thing to this series? No. What we have symbolized here are 2 interlocking triangles, because in the heart chakra is symbolized the idea of balance. Balance is one of the issues that we recognize being symbolized in the heart chakra. So why we have 2 triangles is that there is one triangle pointing up, which talks about how we move from the energy of gross materiality in the root chakra and move up to the energy of spirituality. How many of us have ever thought we felt limited by our bodies and we just wanted to fly, we wanted to escape, wanted to do something different or new? That's that energy of what we call the liberating current of energy, where we can grow, we can move, we can expand. And then the energy of the triangle pointing downward is what we call the manifesting current of energy. Many of us are big picture visionaries, right? So anybody here call yourself a big picture visionary? See all kinds of possibilities everywhere for what life can be and what we can do. And yet we need to be able to move from this upper level and bring things down. And what are we going to manifest? What are we going to do? The hardest thing I found is to tell Unity folks that of all the millions of things we can do, we're only going to do 3. There's just panic. What do you mean we can only do 3? Yes, we're going to bring energy down. Balance happens in our heart chakra. as we balance the knowing that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, that we are both male and female, that we have positive traits and character defects. We balance those right here. In fact, Carl Jung said that the work of individuation, the work of bringing your life into balance, the work of self-realization, self-actualization, enlightenment begins in the heart chakra. And the reason why is this is the place where that upper level value of love gets put into practice. How do we love? How do we make sure that this wonderful faculty, this wonderful experience that we all want, and we write songs about it, we write books about it, we have romantic comedies about it, we have heartbreaking stories about it, we all want love. How do we express it? How do we have it in a healthy and appropriate way so that it nurtures our lives and allows us to co-create a world that we wish to see and be experienced? So when we're talking about love, we're talking about balance, we're talking about self-love, we're talking about agape love, and love moves us to do things. Charles Fillmore said in his work, there's no greater power in the world than mother love. What will a mother do for her children? She'll push everybody out of the way. Well, Mama Bear, what will she do to protect her cubs? And yet, love is sometimes a problem for us, isn't it? Sometimes we have had issues with love, and sometimes love is difficult for us. And it's difficult for a couple different reasons. Some of them are more externally focused. Some of them are more internally focused. We see difficulties in our capacity to love in the external when we have situations where we might feel an over-attachment to just one particular person. Think of I remember Greg Tamblyn, New Thought musician, once talked about how we need to get rid of sappy, codependent love songs. You know, you're my everything, my all in all, you complete me. It's like, what, you were incomplete before? You were only half a person? He's like, no. Or think about so many songs like that would seem to indicate you're not a complete person without somebody else. You know, so there's this notion, this over-attachment. I must have you to be complete. It's like, that's a little bit off kilter. That's not very balanced. Or when you think about how jealousy shows up in our lives, it's like, whoa, that's a real problem for a lot of folks. It's definitely, although it makes for a lot of great storylines on soap operas. It's powerful. But in a more collective sense, this out of balance faculty of love shows up as racism, homophobia, misogyny, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, all these other different ways that prevent and preclude a full expression for love. It starts limiting it. These are symptoms of something going on. You know, we have a core value here at Unity Fairfax, love in action. We want our love to go everywhere. We have another core value, inclusivity. We want to include. But when we have those experiences of jealousy and over-attachment and the isms of whatever they are, they limit our capacity to love. These are some externalized experiences that we all are aware of that say our capacity to love is hindered. There also are the internal challenges we have with loving. And they start with sometimes the lack of or very reduced capacity to love ourselves. This is a real legitimate experience, and that's why I think that song, You Say by Lauren Daigle, that Amy and Hope shared with us, just really gets to me. Because that song highlights the experience I think everyone has, or maybe not us, but you probably know people, who for whatever reason don't love themselves as fully and completely as we deserve to love ourselves. The pack of lies that we've believed about ourselves. You know, self-love is reduced and shrinks on account of two things. One is shame, the other is guilt. Now, shame basically means I am a bad thing. And for many of us, for whatever different reason, we're probably taught in that very root chakra element in our youth, For some reason or another, we were bad. And it sits there until it is excised. And it shows up when we try to make boundaries, and we do so incompletely or unskillfully. And it shows up in how we engage with the world or don't engage in the world. The other one is guilt that says, I did a bad thing. And sometimes what happens is in life, we start identifying ourselves with the bad thing, the unhelpful thing, the unskillful thing. And we carry that around with us, whether it started when we were children or not. And that impacts our relationships, our capacity to set boundaries, our way in which we can engage in the world, because we think, I'm damaged goods, so I can't really engage myself appropriately. What love does is what that song talked about. When we quicken our faculty of love and really realize the implication of our teaching of Christ in you, your hope of glory, we realize that we are bigger than whatever shame we may have been carrying. We are bigger than any guilt we may be feeling. And we can develop the capacity to forgive ourselves, to forgive others, and to look deeply within ourselves. I often reference the 12-step process of doing a searching and fearless moral inventory. That work is fueled by the activation of the heart chakra saying, I love myself enough. I'm going to risk loving myself enough to do this dangerous and risky and frightening thing. Because what you're doing is you're taking a light, like a miner's hat, into the dark places and saying, I'm bringing light to this. I'm bringing love to this. Not to excuse, not to make it go away, not to erase it, in order rather to hold it and to say, this is my experience. Or this happened to me. Or simply, I, in my personality, did this. And know that there is a power and a presence in me that is far bigger than that still. And that presence is the power of spirit in us. It is frightening to liberate ourselves. It is imperative that we liberate ourselves so that we might take that liberating current and free ourselves from the detritus of what we are not or what we no longer are, so that we might manifest the life in the physical we truly desire to have. You know, I've been fortunate to participate in a number of sacred circles where there is safety and vulnerability. Della and I were just talking about that today with our men's group. When a container is presented so that people can say, this happened, or I did this, and realize that in that acknowledgement, in that admission, we are not diminished, but rather made stronger. Concurrently made more human, meaning we have the ability to connect with the experience of others that may not have been so rewarding, and we are more divine because we are willing and able to be more compassionate, to be more loving, to be more accepting, without needing that to follow any particular standard. You know, we close our prayer of truth with wherever we are, God is. This work of bringing ourselves into balance is simply the work of acknowledging that divinity, spirit, God, the holy, is part and parcel of every moment of my life without fail. That's the great work that we bring forward in New Thought. It's not about saying the right things, reciting the right words so you don't spend eternity in the smoking section. It's about living fully, joyfully, in the midst of life in all of its fullness, knowing that we can be balanced, because when we talk about individuation or having a healthy ego or having healthy self-esteem or being able to engage, what we're talking about is being balanced. And balance doesn't always just mean this. Sometimes it means, whoa. It's like, whoa. It's like understanding there's an internal gyroscope within us, always seeking to bring us to rightness. And that's the work of love. So our work, our homework that we have for this week is simply to be willing to take the step, to take the risk, to be loving towards ourselves and others. No longer need to hide from shame or guilt, but simply to acknowledge it's not only in spite of all that, it's because of all that I'm here today. I saw in that source of wisdom, Facebook, that's it. I knew it would come to me. A little quip the other day, and said, whenever I'm having a particularly rough day, I remember that my rate of success for getting through rough days so far is 100%. I have every reason to believe I will get through this one. Sometimes that look within is frightening. Sometimes it means we have to say things we never thought we'd have to say. But when we do, we're free. We have balanced the most tangible physical experience with the most holy, sacred experience. And in so doing, we find peace of mind, peace of heart, and quite often healing in body. Because there is a connection with our minds, our bodies, and our spirits. Because the truth is we are all one. So as we do our work of loving ourselves, we invite others to do the same. So that's all you have to do this week. Just love yourself. Be willing to love others. And the best way to love others is to extend the love first. So many times we sit back and say, well, I'll wait to see if anybody reaches out. But the reality is that's your job. Put the hand out, bow, open your arms for the hug if it's appropriate. That's how we create peace on earth. That's how we create peace in our hearts. We can do this. Namaste.